and information about the oil and gas in Uganda. Before we proceed with what is at hand, wouldn't you wish to know the origin of all this? Earlier February 2022, during the launch of the final investment decision at Kololo Grounds, Kampala, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni narrated the journey of oil exploration in Albertine region.
I want to remind the Ugandans and the East Africans that the exploration for petroleum started in Uganda by the British in 1920. What sparked the British to look for the oil was a seepage of oil at a place called Kibiro. Kibiro is in the valley of Lake Albert, and it is from the local languages, Okubira. Okubira is when you are boiling like water, when it boils, it is called Okubira. So when that's why our ancestors called that place Kibiro, the place where things are boiling from underground. When they saw that seepage, long ago. So when the British came, they showed, our locals showed the British, there is something boiling from the ground here. Now, the British, between 1920 and 1956, that is almost 40 years, they looked for this oil, but they missed it. They couldn't get it. It was seepage in here, but coming from somewhere else. When I came into the government in 1986, I read the file where the Commissioner of Geology, of Geological Survey, a British, in 1956, he wrote and said it seemed the oil was there, but it evaporated and went away, and closed the file. I wish that file could be found and put in the museum by the commissioner, the British Commissioner of Geological Services in 1956. Now, when we came into government in 1986, apparently, Shell BP had again taken interest in the Lake Albert. I think what had stopped new interest, aeromagnetic survey, which we did in 1980 after we kicked out Idi Amin. We hired that government, the interim government, hired a company which did aeromagnetic survey and saw some structures in the Lake Albert area. When we came into government in 1986, apparently Shell BP had again taken interest in the Lake Albert. I think what had sparked off new interest was the aeromagnetic survey which we did in 1980, after we kicked out Idi Amin, we hired that government, the interim government, hired a company which did aeromagnetic survey and saw some structures in the Lekarbat area which looked to be the type that could contain petroleum. So I think that's how the Shell BP had again taken interest. And when we came into government in 1986, some Shell BP people came a few days after we were in the government to meet me in Entebbe, and they said there is oil in Lake Albert. So we were about to sign an agreement with the government of the other government which had collapsed. Now we are here to sign with you. So I said, okay, let me first check with the government whether there is anybody who knows something about petroleum. So I called the people of the Ministry of Minerals. There was a commissioner who had been with me at school at Ntare, Mboijana, Seoul. He came, and I said, do you have anybody who knows anything about petroleum? He said, yes, there is somebody who knows about petroleum. I said, where is he? He said, he's in the Bank of Uganda. Bank of Uganda? Okay, bring him for me. So they brought me that man. The man was from Ghana, Accra. The man was an economist. He was not a scientist. And the only thing he was doing with oil is that he was the one handling the import papers of oil into Uganda. So I said, oh, these Africans. How Africa, query, how? So I called back the Shell BP people, and I said, Shell BP, I have nobody on my side who knows anything about oil, so please go away. Let me first prepare myself. I cannot sign an agreement with you because I have nobody on my side who knows anything about oil. That's when I called the minister, Changomacho, was Minister of Minerals, and I told him, I said, what you do, you look for the young people who have done geology or physics or chemistry at Makerere. At that time, we had only one university. And let them go for specialized studies in petroleum.
And these individuals indeed did whatever was required.
Did just studies. One was to carry out geology mapping, that is to identify the various rock types in order to determine whether these rocks are likely to have generated oil. And indeed, if they have generated oil, have they stored the oil? Mr. Wondo here did discover a rock that generates oil, a source rock at Kivilo. And Mr. Kasande here discovered a very good rock that hosts oil in the Kibuku, the Kasande Formation. So that was the first package. The second package was to carry out a geophysical survey, largely composed of gravity work and magnetics, in order to find out if there are structures underground which have potential to store oil. And in 2003, we were able to draw out a map that identified over 20 structures which had potential to store oil. And indeed, when we invited the companies to come and look at these structures, and they did the more expensive seismic survey and drilling, wherever we showed them where these structures were, they actually found oil.
Thank you very much.
In short, that is the story.
Thank you. So that's what, because I remember those people brought to me computer images saying that we think there is oil here, according to these underground structures, but we don't have the money for drilling, so that's why we are inviting the oil companies. That's how the first companies came. There was a company called Hardman from Australia, Heritage, Talo. They came because these people had proven the British wrong. You remember the British man in 1956 had said there was no oil.
The confirmation of commercial oil and gas resources in Uganda in 2006 has since been a source of both pride and high expectations for many Ugandans. Apparently, Uganda National Oil Company, UNOC, is handling the government commercial interests in the petroleum subsector and to ensure state participation in petroleum activities. Angela Karisa is the communications officer at UNOC. She stresses opportunities there as Ugandans continue to raise the expectations on oil.
The next 5 years, which is a very, it's now a good space for us to tap into the oil and gas space, because the next 5 years now means we are the companies that are heavily participating in the oil and gas space, the international oil companies like Total, UNOC, and the Ugandan participant, which is Uganda National Oil Company, are now going to go into construction, which means awarding of contracts, right? So the next 5 years is a big space for all Ugandans to see how they can tap into. Now, how? The question is how. The Petroleum Authority of Uganda has put in place on their a place where you can register your business. It is under the National Supplier Database. So if you have a business that maybe you have a legal firm, or you do communication services, or you do crane hire, you're into logistics, you're a catering firm, you pen books, that kind of things, you're into waste management, you're an HR firm. There've been 16 categories of jobs that the Petroleum Authority of Uganda has ring-fenced, that nobody else will participate in this space unless you're Ugandan. And so they have put up on their social media platforms a place where you can go register this company. So you go, you put your firm there or your company there and you register it, making it easy for other international companies that will fly here to find you. Then if you don't have a company, but as an individual you have a qualification, you have a degree in law, you have a degree in communications, you are an engineer, you are a chef.
My name is Sechito George William.
There's another provision there that is called the National Talent Register. So you register as an individual and put what certification or qualification you have under the National Talent Register. But also the other ways that Ugandans can prepare, and I've said this over and over again, is for
fuel
them
prices
to
will go down from the recent fuel prices at the borders.
To form
A
bigger
layman may not
groups that
benefit.
will be able to supply the required amounts, because if they require 1,000 trucks to carry equipment and you only have 10 trucks, you may not be able to supply this demand, to meet this demand. But if you form associations with other truck drivers, with other companies that have trucks, then you will be able to meet the demand.
Not only is oil
As it
going
will
to
continue
create employment,
benefiting those
but
in the system
also
already.
boost the number of infrastructure along various regions in the country.
When we drain, when we explore this oil, when we develop, we pull out the oil from the soil and we clean it, because the Uganda National Oil Company has a subsidiary that is a refinery, the Uganda Refinery Holding Company. So after we pull out that oil, we shall clean it in the refinery. then the remnants of what is left once it is cleaned will go into an
My name is
industrial
Kop
park.
Singe.
So that means we are
We
also
thank
building
God for
an
the oil
industrial
blessings.
park
We
for
shall
these,
be fine. Prices of goods
the
and
remnants
fuel
of the
will
refined oil to
stabilize.
go into
For
and pump into
example,
other industry,
I may
into other
travel at
industries like
10,000 shillings
agriculture,
while going to
fertilizer,
Toro.
the items that would help to make plastics and pharmaceuticals and
I'm
cosmetics.
very happy.
So what does that mean then when you look at the broader sense of how important is oil to Uganda? It means that it will lead to industrialization. It means that it will lead to improved infrastructure. It means that it will improve livelihoods because it will lead to more employment opportunities. We are also building the second international airport in Hoima to make it possible that this heavy equipment that we are going to use in the process of drilling and exploring oil land directly in Hoima so that they do not spoil the road infrastructure when they are transported from Entebbe. Now they can just land directly in Hoima and then be used in Hoima. When there's a second international airport in Hoima, what does that mean? That means, first of all, that more clearing farms can open up down there, which means more employment. That means that Ugandans within this space can now get their goods onto the international market because there's now another airport that can export your goods and services onto the international market. So the oil question, what it means for Uganda is very immense and very big, and it is a good opportunity for all you.
As Uganda anticipates its first drop of oil by 2025, does that really bring hope among Ugandans? We take a survey around Kampala. Is this really true that it is hope for Ugandans to thrive? Let people share details on what they think with the oil projections, with the mining of oil, what it brings to their stall.
Amanya gange bambita Sekito George William mvuga boda boda kati ku nsonga y'amafuta agali Hoima nze nga wemanyi Uganda okusinza embeera gye tuli mu mbeera mbi tineegana aba gatuuse ng'eseera kyo gasima gatuuse fine twandibale tugaganyirwamu kuba ekintu bwe kibanga mukisembedde suubira okufunawo emirimu gijja kubanga mingi amafuta gaba galina okuba nga ga bbeeyi ntono naye nze nga wemanyi Uganda ffe gye tulibeeramu essaawa zino eno era gesigala nga ga bbeeyi kuba no juze mabega twafuna shortage y'amafuta nga bagamba gali ku boda mbu kyekyaviirako amafuta okulinnya naye era amafuta ne bagakkiriza ne gayingira mu ggulu ne gajja mu nsi era sibbe ekyali waggulu nnyo kati nze nsuubira okusima kw'amafuta Hoima ge bagenda okusima 225 nga bwe bagamba tuyinza obutakiganyirwamu nnyo ffe omuntu wa wansi era bwennyini abakirimu bwe bagenda okifunamu tegajja kukka era wegana bagasse nnyo gajja kukka nga nusu 3 naye nga nze nga ndowooza senga yenga yegatuuse Hoima gandibadde ati singali 27,000 ba 13 okusobola ffe okugaganyirwamu kati essaawa ya leero liira amafuta nteekamu ga 15,000 gakola 4,000 tubaye tugenda kufunamu nakati tunyigirizibwa tuli mu mbeera mbi batuyambe gavumenti tuyambe
amabala gange banyatako awokuba Ruhanga ali mu Uganda hano ekisembo kirungi ntujja kuba kurungi emihendo yona nejja kuba hansi ati onkuba nyinduga kono Kampala ninja Toro ninsobola kugendera n'omutwaro awokuba saa zino bala mitwaro 3 kuba 15,000 nikajja kutuyamba muno buli kimu nikijja kuba hansi nsemerirwe muno obwa Ruhanga okutuha ekisembe ekye ky'amafuta.
I, Addison Beyunga, actually we are bad off about that, but we want them to put the money in the fuel, to add, because we are struggling for the price of the fuel. Yeah? Every person which has a motorcycle, a car, we are actually struggling on the fuel for the fuel. But the cars they are there, starting, and even when you are trying to take the passengers, whatever, you have to include the money. because of the fuel. Is that money they add for the dead body of late? Why don't they add on the fuel so that the fuel can be on the normal price?
Angela believes that you can tap into opportunities if only one is engaging with the oil and gas related programs, which includes right information.
The oil project also provides opportunities, but again, like so many other opportunities, our MSMEs have to position themselves. One thing which needs to be done for our MSMEs is to come together, to be able to take advantage of those markets provided. But they also need information, because we have been talking to a number of MSMEs. They don't have the information. They even don't know where to start from. They hear rumors, there is a market, So the Ministry of Trade, the private sector associations like FSME, like private sector, should bring their members together. People need information.
And then go to all these workshops. We've been holding several workshops for SMEs to teach them what the quality should look like, how you can participate. So wherever you hear of these workshops, please do be in attendance. You will learn a lot. Also read up on oil and gas so that you understand where you can best fit.
Uganda National Oil Company is monitoring operations at Telenga and Kingfisher projects. Kingfisher project will produce 40,000 barrels of oil per day during peak production. The crude will be treated at a central processing facility located in the southeastern shores of Lake Albert.
So petroleum has different stages. It has exploration, which is it has exploration, licensing, and processing and production. That is when you go, you apply for a license, and then you go in there, you search an area, you see if there's enough oil, you drill it. So that is what we call the upstream. UNOC also participates in the midstream, which includes refining and transportation. We also, as I explained to you, UNOC has two subsidiaries, the National Pipeline Company and the Uganda Refinery Holding Company. So after this oil is drilled, we'll put it in a refinery and get it cleaned, and then put it in a pipeline, the longest heated pipeline that will transport it to Tanga. Then UNOC also participates in downstream, which is storage. We have storage terminals. We have one in Jinja, and we are building a massive one in Namoambula, somewhere in Mpigi, so that we have storage, so that when there's an oil shortage on the market, we are able to help out on that kind of front. But what all this means is that with all these different infrastructure that UNOC is participating in, they will lead to more job creation. More job creation improves livelihoods. Improved livelihoods impact the economy of the country, because then that will slowly lead us to the middle income state, which is Uganda's mandate.
The oil and gas resources that have been discovered in Uganda to date are close to 6.5 billion barrels in place in the Albertine Graben. The country is expected to recover about 1.4 billion barrels at a peak production rate of about 230,000 barrels per day.
First of all, it's important to understand that as of now, we have found commercially viable amounts of oil, and what that initially means is that the amount of oil that Uganda has is enough for us to get money, to get a return on investment on, because there are times you could find oil, but it's not commercially viable. It's not enough for us to go into a whole process of exploring or selling. So the one that we have so far found is enough. And we have other exploration areas that have not yet been tapped into. So the one that we have so far tapped into is enough.
You've heard from people what they've got to say about what hope the oil projections in Hoima, or even the progress, will bring to their sustainable living. The next time we meet, we'll surely discuss more on the Public Management Act. Stick around. My name is Rita Cabanyoro. See you next time.